Stay tuned. Download the TuneIn app onto your mobile phone today and catch up on all the latest news from HitzAfrik Radio. Broadcasting live on modern Ghana and our website www.hitsafrikradio.org. HitzAfrik Radio News Hour live.
Good morning, it's exactly 7 o'clock GMT in the studios of HitzAfrik Radio. You're logged on to www.modernghana.com on the TuneIn app at HitzAfrik Radio. We are transmitting live on Facebook and YouTube at HitzAfrik Radio. My name is Abina Arinye. Now to the news headlines. National Chief Imam commemorates increased investment in water and sanitation. GES resigns directive to Achimota schools. 3 burned to death in Spintex Road accident. Egypt receives second shipment of vaccine from China. These are many other stories I bring away this morning. Stay tuned as I bring you the news in details. National Chief Imam commiserates with Jalo fraternity in Prague. The National Chief Imam Sheikh Osman Nuhu Sharubutu has commiserated with the family of the late Sheikh Aliu Ahmed Makainu, Kalamu, and the entire Jalo fraternity. Sheikh Sharubutu also extended a warm gesture of support to the grieving family on Saturday when he sent a special delegation to Prague base of the Imam on the third day funeral, a significant day for deceased Muslims. The Chief Imam's delegation presented 30 bags of rice and 2,000 Ghana cedis to the family on behalf of Sheikh Sharubutu as his contribution towards the funeral. Receiving the items, the bereaved family expressed gratitude to the National Chief Imam for the warm gesture. The charismatic Imam was killed by alleged robbers on Thursday, and glowing tributes have since been pouring in from leading Muslims. Sheikh Sharubutu's gesture to the Jalo fraternity has been hailed by Tijaniya adherents as a remarkable tribute to the young cleric and furthers overtures for the strengthening of peace. Meanwhile, the National Chief Imam has announced he will conduct prayers for the late cleric in Accra on Tuesday. In other stories, increased investment in water and sanitation subsector NGO urges government. World Vision Ghana, a Christian humanitarian organization, is calling on the government to increase investment in the water and sanitation subsector to ensure easy access to potable water across the country. According to the organization, although the government has made strides in providing 80% of Ghana's population with safe drinking water, about 6 million children and their families still lacked access to safe water. As we celebrate World War Day 2021, World Vision Ghana wishes to congratulate the government, development partners, NGOs or CSOs, private sectors, and non-state actors for working hard to ensure that the 80% of Ghana's population have access to safe drinking water MICC 2017-2018. We, however, need to remind ourselves that while we have made some strides, some 6 million children and their families still lack access to safe water. The organization noted in a stated issue on March 22nd to commemorate the World Water Day. The statement also urged the government to take immediate steps to address water quality challenges and also pay attention to the necessity of safe water in schools and healthcare facilities. We also need to pay attention to water quality and the inequality associated with access. The 2017-2018 Multiple Indicator Cluster Survey report reveals that close to 8 in every 10 households has equally fecal contamination in their drinking water, whilst close to 5 out of 10 water sources were also affected, it said. As believers in a better world for children, World Vision lies and works in communities to co-create water, sanitation, and hygiene solutions that last. We believe that nothing can be more important to child well-being than access to safe drinking water. Globally, the organization is the largest non-governmental in the developing world, reaching a new person with safe water every 10 seconds, it added. The poor and needy search for water, but there is none. Their tongues are parched with thirst. But I will answer you, says the Lord. I, the God of Israel, will not forsake them. In the Holy Book of Isaiah, chapter 41, verse 17. The importance of water to human beings cannot be overemphasized. Water promotes improved health, livelihoods, and general well-being. Indeed, it is the soft set that water is life, and no strategy for poverty reduction can ignore people's vital requirements for safe water. Sadly, millions around the world, including Ghana, do not have access to this vital need. It is not uncommon to find women and children traveling long distances in search of water, but only ending up fetching water from rivers, streams, unprotected ponds, and other contaminated water sources. In several rural and small towns, community members still share drinking water sources with cattle and other animals. 49% of public basic schools lack access to safe water on their premises. As we celebrate World War Day 2021, World Vision Ghana wishes to congratulate the government. Globally, the organization is the largest non-governmental provider of clean water in the developing world, reaching a new person would save water every 10 seconds. In other stories, GES resigns directive to Achimota School to admit Rastafarians. The Ghana Education Service (GES) has rescinded its directive to the headmistress of the Achimota School to admit two first-year students with dreadlocks who reported to their school to begin their senior high school education. Counsel for the parents of the students has said. The authorities of Achimota School last week denied admission to the two students who were posted there under the Computer School Placement System (CSSPS) because the rules of the school did not allow students with dreadlocks to be admitted. The school authorities were emphatic that unless the students cut off their hair dreadlocks, they will not be admitted. Social media was Friday awash with arguments for and against the decision for the school authorities when the father of one of the students took to Facebook to protest the school's decision. But later Friday evening, the GES said a directive had been issued to the school to admit the students. We have asked their headmaster to admit the student. The student is a Rastafarian, and if there is evidence to show that he is a Rastafarian, all that he needs to do is to tie the hair neatly. The Director General of the GES, Professor Kwesi Opoku Amankwa, told Daily Graphics Serious Kelly Derry. However, on Monday, March 22nd, 2021, the management of Achimota School retreated its stance not to admit the students until they cut their hair. At a meeting at the GES headquarters, the GES rescinded its earlier directive and supported Achimota School's policy that their kids can only come to school after taking off their dreadlocks. The GES at the meeting supported the position of the school, according to the Council of the Parents of the Students, who is also president for the Rastafarians Council of Ghana, Ras George Tete Wine. President Present at the said meeting, Graphic Online gathered was the Deputy Director of the GES, Mr. Anthony Boateng, was reportedly supported the position of Achimota School. In other stories, three burned to death in Spencer's Road accident. Three persons got burnt to death when the Mercedes-Benz saloon vehicle they were traveling with was involved in an accident on the Spencer's Road in Accra. One passenger from the Benz was, however, rescued and currently in critical condition at the LEKMA hospital. The driver of the Mercedes-Benz vehicle reportedly ignored warning signals of an earlier accident on the road and ran into a 20-footer container that had fallen onto the road. Police personnel were present at the scene directing traffic and were supervising the removal of the container from the road when the second accident occurred and resulted in the death of the three persons. The accident happened on Saturday, March 20th, 2021. The police explained that they got information about the earlier accident on the Spencer's Road and moved personnel from the Otboi Gono district to control vehicular traffic at the accident spot. The accident happened near the Fashion City Furniture Building, and it involved a DAF truck with registration number GT3848D, a Nissan 4x4 with registration number GT855820, and another saloon vehicle with registration number JN386320. The police explained that when they moved to the accident scene, all the three vehicles were at the resultant position, and investigations revealed that the suspect driver, Cyril Lati, was in charge of the DAF truck, which was loaded with a 20-feet container and was heading towards the Palace Mall from Mammoth Junction. According to the police, on reaching a spot near Fashion City Furniture, the driver of the truck reportedly lost control and ran into two other vehicles and caused damage to them. The container fell on the road, and while the police were directing traffic and the National Road Safety Recovery truck was about to move the container from the road, a driver in charge of a Mercedes-Benz saloon car with four persons on board reportedly ignored all the warning signals and crashed into the container, the police said. The Benz caught fire, and with the assistance of the fire service personnel, police managed to rescue one passenger. However, three occupants in the Benz were burnt to death. The bodies have been deposited at the police hospital in Accra. The driver and one other occupant are in critical condition at the LEKMA hospital. Moving on to other stories in Africa, Egypt. Egypt received second shipment of vaccine from China. Egypt's health minister on Monday praised the Chinese coronavirus vaccine Sinopharm after the Arab country received a 300,000 dose shipment of the shot as a donation from China. Scientifically, it is considered one of the strongest vaccines, Halajade said. Egypt is among dozens of nations depending on China to help rescue them from the COVID-19 pandemic, part of Beijing vaccine diplomacy campaign that has been a surprising success. Jay told reporters Egypt was working with the Chinese government to become a manufacturer of the vaccine to meet supply and home in other African countries. Egypt had previously received 350,000 doses of the Sinopharm jab, as well as a shipment of 50,000 doses of the AstraZeneca shot. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi said last month his country needs at least 70 million doses of coronavirus vaccine to inoculate 30 to 35 million people. Egypt, the Arab world's most populous country with over 100 million people, has reported more than 195,418 confirmed cases of coronavirus, including 11,598 deaths. due to limited testing. In Congo-Brazzaville President Sassou Nguesso takes Aleppo lead. Incumbent President Denis Sassou Nguesso and candidate for the presidential election deliver longtime Republic of Congo President Denis Sassou Nguesso appears on court to win a fourth term, according to early results on Monday, as vote counting continues and despite the death of the main rival. Sunday's presidential election was overshadowed by the sudden death of the main rival, gay Bryce Parfait Kalilas, who passed away from coronavirus on polling day. Provisional official results from 35 polling stations indicate Sassou Nguesso won by 'Kindly pardon our technical challenges. We are still on the news hour right here in the studios of HitzAfrik Radio. In the Poto district of the capital, Brazzaville, he had picked up 89.15% of the vote according to figures issued by the Electoral Commission. Across the country, the results are mostly in line with this trend, Commission Chief Henry Balkwau said. One of the world's longest-serving rulers, Sassou Nguesso, was the front-runner in an election boycotted by the main opposition and under an internet blackout. In power for a total of 36 years, he has long been accused by critics of iron-fisted rule and turning a blind eye to corruption, poverty, and inequality despite abundant oil wealth. Kolela, 61, his only significant challenger, died on Sunday aboard a medical plane that took him to Paris. His campaign director, Christian Sir Rodrigo Mayanda, told AFP. Sassou Nguesso, a former paratrooper, first rose to power in the Republic of Congo in 1979. He was forced to introduce multi-party elections in 1991 and was defeated by the ballot box a year later. But he returned to power in 1997 following a prolonged civil war and has won every election since then in conditions that the opposition says were fraudulent. A constitutional amendment in 2015, which ended a ban on presidential candidates aged over 70 and scrapped a two-term limit, allowed him to run again in 2016. Two candidates in that vote, former Army General Jean-Marie Michael Mokoko and ex-minister Andrew Okumbi Salisa, were sentenced in 2018 to 20 years imprisonment for undermining state security. Final results are likely to be announced on Tuesday or Wednesday, according to the Electoral Commission. Moving on to other stories, EU sanctions Eritrea for right abuses. The European Union slapped sanctions at Eritrea on Monday for alleged human rights violations, including extrajudicial killings, torture, enforced disappearances, and arbitrary arrests. The EU did not give further details on the sanctions, but this month, the United Nations accused Eritrean troops of operating in Ethiopia's northern Tigray region, and there are reports that suggest they were responsible for atrocities. EU blacklisted Eritrea's National Security Office, which is responsible for intelligence, interrogations, and arrests. The National Security Office is responsible for serious human rights violations in Eritrea, in particular arbitrary arrests, extrajudicial killings, and forced disappearances of persons and torture. The EU said the foreign minister of the 27-nation bloc agreed to the measures. Eritrea's foreign ministry reacted by saying the EU's decision was malicious and accused the bloc of bridging a divide between Eritrea and Ethiopia. It also said the EU was trying to bring back power to the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF. The EU has no legal or moral prerogative for this decision. He has merely invoked trumped-up charges to harass Eritrea for other ulterior motives, the foreign minister said in a statement. Thousands have been killed amid the fighting in Tigray, and hundreds of thousands have been forced to flee their homes since the conflict erupted in November last year. Both Ethiopia and Eritrea have denied Eritrea using troops to fight in the Tigray conflict, despite an Ethiopian general, a witness, reporting their presence. The sanctions will mean asset freezes in the European Union, and individuals and entities in the bloc cannot make funds available to those listed. The EU's move comes as part of this new sanctions system, which aims to punish human rights abuses. The bloc also sanctions Myanmar's military chiefs and 4 Chinese officials. Here lies the end of the local stories. Stay tuned as I fetch you the foreign stories.
The News Hour, coming to you live from the studios of HitzAfrik Radio and TV.
You're still logged on to HitzAfrik Radio, www.modernghana.com, on the TuneIn app, on our website at www.hitzafrikradio.org. Now let's do some foreign stories. United States child migrants Biden era detention centers. Migrants at the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Temporary Processing Center in Donna, Texas, the Biden administration has said it will open additional facilities for migrants after images from a detention center in Texas show children huddled together in crowded makeshift rooms. The Texas site, a government-run tent city in Donna at the U.S.-Mexico border, is reportedly housing 1,000 people. The photos are the first to show conditions of such facilities since President Joe Biden took office. Critics have blamed Mr. Biden for a surge in illegal migration to the USA. Since taking office in January, Mr. Biden has removed some of the restrictions for those entering the U.S. introduced by his predecessor, Donald Trump. His administration has reversed a policy of turning away unaccompanied children at the border, instead opting to process them and place them with sponsoring families in the U.S. On Monday, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said the U.S. government was working to provide further accommodation for arrivals in the coming days and weeks. Places where kids have access to healthcare, can have access to educational resources, even legal resources, she said. Her comment came after images released on Monday by Texas Congressman Henry Siller, a Democrat, showed children at the facility in Dona sleeping on thin mattresses on the floor under foil blankets. Migrants at the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Temporary Processing Center in Dona. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention (CDC) recommends that people remain 2 meters 6 feet apart to help prevent the spread of virus infections. The swelter said that those being housed at the center had been divided among 8 plastic pods that were overcrowded. Activists have also said that those housed at the site had not been able to given adequate access to soap or food. These we've been long have been waiting, saying, which is these border patrol facilities are not places made for children. Mr. Sparky said, they are not places that we want children to stay for an extended period of time. She said the alternative was to send children back on the treacherous journey. That is not, in our view, the right choice to make us. Journalists have been permitted inside the detention centers since Mr. Biden took office, although the White House has said they will be. Lawyers were present with children. The lawmakers have toured the facilities, have described conditions as cramped. Migrants at the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Temporary Processing Center in the city of Dona. The number of unaccompanied minors at the border has increased sharply in recent months. The U.S. government has said it wants to work with Mexico and Guatemala to address the root causes of the problem, which include widespread poverty and violence in Central America. Ms. Sparky said there was special concern about the growing number of unaccompanied children arriving at U.S. border crossings and their well-being as a priority. Children presenting at our border who are fleeing violence, who are fleeing persecution, who are fleeing terrible situations is not a crisis, she said. We feel that it is our responsibility to humanly approach this circumstance and make sure they are treated and put in conditions that are safe. There had been an influx of arrivals to the U.S. southern border since Mr. Biden took office, including hundreds of unaccompanied children who are being held. Moving on to other stories, gunman kills 10 in Colorado market shooting. A gunman has killed 10 people, including a police officer, following an hours-long standoff at a grocery market in Colorado, U.S. police say. The attack in Boulder ended with an injured, shirtless suspect being led away from the King Soopers market. The incident began around 14:30 local time, 20:30 GMT, when the suspect entered the grocery store and began firing. The Boulder police tweeted some 20 minutes later that there was an active shooter at the King Soopers at the Table Mesa Street. 2 hours later, the police again warned people to avoid the area. Do not broadcast on social media any tactical information you might see, the tweet added. However, some of the standoff was captured on camera by a passerby, showing victims near the grocery store. I don't know what's going on. I heard gunshots. Someone's down, the cameraman shouts. There is an active shooter. Get away. Gunshots can be heard as he runs away from the shot. On Twitter, Colorado Governor Jared Polis said, "My prayers are with only few Coloradans in this time of sadness and grief as we learn more about the extent of the tragedy." Polish writer Jacob Galicka charged for calling President Duda a moron. Polish president and member of the right-wing Law and Justice (PiS) party, Andrzej Duda, a popular Polish writer and journalist, could face up to 3 years in prison for calling President Andrzej Duda Amoron, a Facebook post in November. Jacob Zalzikir accused Mr. Duda of failing to understand the U.S. electoral process in its way to Joe Biden. Dr. Duda's tweet stopped short of recognizing his victory pending electoral college confirmation, but hailed his successful campaign. Poland has made it a crime to insult state leaders and religion. As we await the nomination by the Electoral College, Poland is determined to upkeep high-level and high-quality PLUS strategic partnership for an even stronger alliance. Referring to the tweet in a Facebook post, Mr. Zelek wrote with had studied U.S. pleas with a keen interest, and that he had never heard of such a thing as Electoral College nomination. Joe Biden is the 46th president of the USA, he wrote, adding, and just Duda is a moron. Text used in the post was deemed offensive and unaccepted, prosecutors said. A well-known author in Poland, Mr. Zuzik's 2014 novel Blinded by the Light was later made into a TV series for HBO Europe. Moving on to other stories in Europe. EU sanctions people stand next to damaged. The European Union slapped sanctions in Eritrea on Monday for alleged human rights violations, including extrajudicial killings, torture, enforced disappearances, and arbitrary arrests. The EU did not give further details on the sanctions, but this month, the United Nations accused Eritrean troops of operating in Ethiopia's northern Tigray nations, and there are reports that suggest they are responsible for atrocities. The National Security Office is responsible for serious human rights violations in Eritrea, and in particular arbitrary arrests, extrajudicial killings, enforced disappearances of persons, and torture. The EU said after Foreign Minister of the 27-nation bloc agreed to the measures. Eritrea Foreign Minister reacted by saying the EU's decision was malicious. They accused the bloc of bridging a divide between Eritrea and Ethiopia. The bloc also sanctions Myanmar's military chiefs and 4 Chinese officials. Here lies the end of the foreign story. Stay tuned as I bring you the entertainment news. You're still logged on to HitzAfrik Radio and TV on Facebook and YouTube. At HitzAfrik Radio, you're logged on to www.modernghana.com. Now let's do some entertainment news. Kumewood film director Osewusu threatens to sue jewelers for using his brand name. In 5 years, authorities said it was discharging about 500 gigatons a day, equivalent to the volume of Sydney Harbour. Kindly pardon our technical challenge and breakdown. You're still logged on to HitzAfrik Radio, www.modernghana.com, on the TuneIn app at HitzAfrik Radio. Now let's do some entertainment news this morning. Kumewood film director Osewusu threatens to sue jeweler for using his brand name. Kumewood director Osewusu's Ghanaian award-winning film producer and director Erasmus Osei Owusu popularly known in the showbiz circle as Osewus, has threatened to file legal action against a jeweler for using his brand name for its company. According to the founder of the Osewus Ventures, his name was used by a jeweler called Osewus Jewelry Enterprise without consulting him for permission. The popular Kumawood producer, who has produced over 100 Kumawood films and worked with all the top stars in Kumawood, shared an online poster of the jeweler and his business certificate and threatened legal action. Increased investment threatens Lyon hegemony and Women's Champions League. Scotland to stand against racism before extra qualified sport. He captioned the poster and business certificate backing his claim Osewus is a registered brand. I am showing this to my law practitioners. I do not own Osewus Enterprise Jewelry, but the brand Osewus is legally my own. I am definitely showing this to my lawyer. The jeweler in question is yet the heir on the allegations by Osewus. In other stories, mother of Nakiat under attack for alleged bleaching daughter's skin. This concern was raised by social media users after a photo of the talented Kids Season 10 winner, who is now co-hosting the season's reality show, was shared online. According to observers, the skin coloration of the young poet's feet does not even look, with her toes appearing darker, hence claim that she may be using a bleaching cream. Unhappy fans then decided to accuse her mother of being responsible. Nakiyat A won the reality in 2019, and since then she keeps growing in the public's eye. Based on some fans, they say talented poet has always been, therefore does not need a brighter to look prettier. Commenting on the photo shared on TV3 social media pages, one at Blyon wrote, "Why are they bleaching the child at this early age? Oh, they must stop, pa." With at Efia D Aroma asking that, why are at Nakiat's parents bleaching her skin? In other stories, Ejewudzi recounts 2 year spiritual battle in Obofor's church after Yankonkwa release. Ejewudzi, famed for his Yankonkwa monster hit in 2011, has disclosed that he faced serious spiritual battles after the release of the song. Explaining his absence in the music scene, the Ghanaian musician said he was hit by a strange illness that took several years to heal because doctors could tell that what was wrong with him. So he had to seek spiritual healing. The very day I had to travel outside the country for a big show, I fell sick and I had a spiritual attack that was difficult to avert. I jumped from one pastor to another to search of healing, but to no avail, Ejewuzi recounted. Speaking about how he got healed, the Yankonkwa singer disclosed that had to live in Reverend Obofor's church, where he spiritually battled the strange illness. I spent over 2 years sleeping in Reverend Obofor's church. I visited the hospital on several counts, but the doctors found nothing. If you spot my face at that time, you won't be able to eat for 3 days. I was under attack, he said during an interview on Unia FM. Before this revelation, Ejewuzi once disclosed in an interview with HitzAfrik's Andy Dusty that some of his colleagues in the music industry have tried to destroy his music career with black magic, juju in our local dialect. In other stories of USA, Warner Music teams up with Tencent to crack China. Warner Music has signed a deal with China's Tencent to help it break into a fast-growing Asian market. The US record label said the venture with the Chinese tech giant will help make its artists like Dua Lipa and Ed Sheeran impossible to ignore. The companies have also launched a record label to develop artists together. Rivals Universe Music and Sony Music have also struck similar deals with Tencent as they look to crack China. While China boasts nearly a fifth of the world's population, It accounted for less than 3% of the $20 billion, £14.4 billion, in global revenues made last year by record companies. However, it is a fast-growing market thanks to the rise of streaming services such as those owned by Tencent and fellow tech giant Alibaba. Though the agreement, Tencent will secure the rights to recordings from thousands of Warner Music artists, ensuring their songs remain on its dominant online music platforms. Cracking Asia, US music groups have been ramping an investment in Asia as they look to capture new streaming customers with smartphones. Universal Music signed a deal last month with major K-pop record labels to help to break into South Korea. It also joins forces with the Big Hit Entertainment, South Korea's supergroup BTS label, to create a new record label to scout and launch a new K-pop boy band together. While major US are trying to break into China and the Asian region, Tencent had been investing billions of dollars in the US music market. It has acquired a 20% stake in Universal Music, a 9% stake in Spotify, and a 2% stake in Warner Music. Here lies the end of the news for this morning. Stay tuned as I give you a recap of today's stories. And the headlines were National Chief Imam commiserate, increase investment in water and sanitation, JES resigns directive to Achimota, 3 burned to death in Sprinter's road accident, Egypt receives second shipment of vaccine from China. These and many other stories are brought your way this morning. My name is Abna Ahunia. Stay tuned for more music and entertainment. Have a blessed morning.